Is there, let's see, okay. Oh, no, we need, is there any comment, concern from the board? Luisana?
So what is the reason why we want to reduce? What is it, because of participation or,
I mean, you're saying we want to reduce, that's not the case. When we came on board here, and when I say we, I mean this current board, we inherited a situation in which the board was in exhaustive efforts. And there were a number of mandates that the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment placed on the board in order to get off of exhaustive efforts. One of them was entertaining the idea of reducing the board, or at least voting on it, putting it out there, voting on it. So that's why we're doing this. Angela?
But what's the purpose, to a DUN representative, of downsizing it from 21 to 15? Look at us now. How many are we now? We're about 16, 17 board members.
And
we still have problems with the So my question is, what is the benefit? Why is the department recommending the downsize from 21 to 15? Not the exhausted efforts, but what's the signification behind that? Do we know?
Do I know? Are you asking?
Yes. Why 15 versus 21? What's the purpose of it? And not because of the exhausted efforts. When we were placed on exhausted efforts, the purpose was, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we were to review this item only. We don't have to agree to it. We don't have to downsize it if we choose. We don't want to. The problem that I see is the lack of participation. The more board members we have, the more outreach that we can do in order to bring people to our community, to our meetings. That's the goal of what we're here to do, is to serve our community. Other than that, what's the purpose? And it still hasn't been cleared with me. What is the benefit of downsizing from 21 to 15? If from 21 former boards, we've always had quorum, and it seems like here at this board, we don't. So what's the purpose? Thank you.
I need to make a quick announcement. There's 2 vehicles parking. The handicapped, this lady that just left, she's handicapped severely. She needs the pickup that's there and an SUV that came in about the same time I got here. The black SUV parked up there, blocking the first handicap. My apologies to the board and the constituents for my interruption, but I think that had a priority over anything. She's severely handicapped.
Is there any other?
No, I just want an announcement from that, though. I'm still unclear why, what's the purpose of downsizing.
So, I was not involved in the development of these, the recommendations or the actual exhaustive efforts plan, so I can't speak to the history. But just in general, typically when boards reduce their size, it's due to quorum issues. So I don't know what the history has been with that here, but that's typically one of the major things that'll even get you into exhaustive efforts. So I would imagine that that's part of the problem. And so we have seen boards that have successfully downsized, and then you always have the option to add seats back in. So, you know, it could be a transitional plan, right? So you're right, you don't have to take the recommendation. However, you know, if you are facing quorum issues, this is one way to address it. And if you continue to face quorum issues, you can see yourselves back in exhaustive efforts, or, you know, worst case scenario, facing decertification, which is, I mean, you've come so far in this process, I don't see that occurring, but that would be my general understanding. Like I said, I don't have the history of this board and what you face and where that specific number came from, but it's a pretty standard process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, if I could get my
Get it?
Hold on.
So I had attended one of the bylaws committees where they actually were discussing this, not as a voting member, just because I thought it was interesting and I find bylaws very fascinating. And so some of the history was that in reviewing the bylaws, they had felt that there was a need to reduce the number for as they touched upon, for practical issues such as quorum, because right now it would be if we have 21, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if it's simple majority, it's 50 plus 1, so it would be 11. But so far, yeah. And then reducing it would reduce the number required for the number of people here for quorum. And so you're correct though, it's up to the board to decide whether or not we want to do this. It's a proposed revision, and so if the board feels that they would like to revise it in this way, then they can. And keep in mind, during elections, we have plenty of seats that run uncontested. We have the South Region who only have one representative, so that's just to add some context as well as where they were coming from. I think that they were concerned that there wasn't enough community engagement in that aspect, but whether or not that's the right solution, I'll leave it up to the board. I am speaking from experience from working for a nonprofit company on their board of directors. Having too many people on a board can lead to a problem that Athens faced, which was having too many people bicker led to the destruction of their democracy and actually killed Socrates, just a small historical fact right there. But I mean, and there's other ways to engage the community as well, because the board is for the governing body of the neighborhood council, and so we do have committees, we do have various areas that people can get involved with, and so those are just a few points to bring up, but like at the end of the day, you said it's up to the discretion of the board.
I'm going to ask anyone on this side if you have comments, if we could just pass the mic down so that we don't have to be walking around. Cecilia?
So, yeah, personally from experience, I've been on a committee that's had over 30 people, and it's really hard to operate and make decisions and get what everybody else wants. So, yeah, I think that it'll be good just because we want to work towards getting off of exhausted efforts. And if working towards quorum, I mean, it's as simple as getting people here. It's as simple as taking one position away where people haven't ran for, like Nick said in the past, one person ran for the South Region. So I think overall it'll make it more effective.
Thank you.
I'll make one last comment. I think we should keep it at 21. I think the board, we need to get more active stakeholders and board members that are currently on the board involved. So I particularly ask the board to please reconsider this, and we can work on it. I think we have to disagree on issues, but we can do it respectfully, just as we are doing today. So I don't believe that downsizing is going to really solve our problem. Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to move the motion. I would like to move the motion.
Let me start at public comment on board.
Yes.
Sorry, Donna, thank you.
We have a
Okay, let's get coming down. Do we have a second?
I got a second.
Okay, we're going to continue discussion. Andy, anything? For or against? Patricia?
I made my comment.
Joey?
I would say that based on past experience, the board was large and there was a lot of conflict between board members. So I think that following the recommendation would be a point to try to make things better for the community. If that doesn't work, then we could always try increasing later, but I think it's a good move to try to make this neighborhood council functional. And so we have meetings that take place, quorums. And also something that I noticed previously before is a lot of board members talk about outreach is important, and it is important. However, it would be the same handful of board members who would participate doing outreach. So just because you have a larger board, it doesn't mean you're going to have more outreach. Sometimes having just a small core group does all the work. And just having more members doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be more functional and doing more outreach. So I would recommend to support the motion.
I agree with Yoli on this one, because we've had several outreach events, and I can contest that it's only been myself, Michelle, Cynthia, who's helped us, Capricia, Yoli, and the stakeholders as well, Mr. Steve over there, he's helped us, and our president, and that's it. So to say that, to have more board members would be more outreach, I don't think that's, to have more, again, to have more number of people, just to say they're on the board and then not help out, I'm the outreach chair, so I'm the one that's stuck doing all the work with Michelle. So, I'm asking for your support, but again, sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. But to reduce the board would be better.
Michelle?
I went to some meetings from the former board, and they were 21, and big group, always arguing against each other, and it was something that they just couldn't communicate with each other. It was a little bit challenging because of different personalities. This group took office on May 7th, and it's a small group, and we may not be 21, but we are enough to get it going, to get it off the exhausted efforts. 15 is a good number, 21 is not a good number. That's just too many people on the board. 15 is a number that will help us, and not only downsizing will help, but it's kind of like Ogama said, filling 21, the people here don't go to the outreach committees, and they get invited, and they get told, and community gets told, and we put everything on website, we put everything on Facebook, and everyone gets the email blast, board members get the email. So when you really sit down and look at it, it's something that, just because we go 21 doesn't mean we're gonna go more on outreach, no. I think with what we have right now, these 15, all of us right here, we just really work with what we have in our hands. And some of us here are chairs to what we have. And it's not going to be something that's going to overwhelm us, because if we took the chair, we said, I want this chair, then that means that person's going to be able to do it. Because I've already spoke to some of my colleagues here who are chairs, and they seem to be very interested on chairing that and taking on it. And the 1-2 board members that they have, or community members, they're moving forward with that. So it's not something that's going to exhaust the individual or dear life, there's just, too many committees. Then we take it with little steps. We don't have to take on all the entire committees. We start with a little bit, and then from there we move a little more forward. So I think 15 is actually just fine the way it is. It should stay exactly where it's at.
Thank you. Cynthia?
What I have to say is that when the elections process began, there was an announcement there would be 21 seats. And many people came out, as many as could, and they promoted themselves. They went out and they decided they were going to run, so they campaigned, and they got as many people to come out and vote for them. Now, many of these people that have dedicated their time to do this knew it was a 21-seat board at that time. This was before this incarnation. And now we have only 12 members that are still involved. What about those people that went out there and people came out to vote for them? They deserve the opportunity to come out and sit on this board. Whether they stay for the next month or the next 2 months, that's their prerogative. But they did go out there. They did solicit their votes. They did campaign. They did take it to the next level. They did their best to get voted. And the numbers are there. They're there on our website, and it states that these people, individuals, took the time to actually campaign, and they were voted in. So I feel the 21 should be filled, because that's what we started. We started the election process with 21. We promised 21 seats. There were 4 from each region and 5 at large. My position at this point, I'm an at-large candidate. I was voted in. I was the second highest ranking in votes. Now, that would remain myself and the first at-large voting person that was voted in with the largest number upon myself. What happens to the other 3 members that waited idly by and sat and voted and had people come and vote for them? What happens to them? Are they not here? Were they not nominated? Were they not informed to come back? That's my concern. Was there any emails, any outreach to these individuals to come back and say, we still have 21 seats per our bylaws. Come back and take your seat. If that process wasn't done, then we are most definitely disenfranchising our board. Thank you.
Okay.
I do want to say something this time. Just to address a couple of the concerns. When Cynthia, we did get permission from Dunn to fill 4 seats. 4 seats were all, they weren't letting us fill all 21. I'm talking about the last election last month. And everybody was emailed. Everybody was emailed. I think the only email I didn't have was Ari Reese, and you said you had it and that you'd get it to him. It's not on the website. Anyhow, everybody showed up. Everyone who ran